Damn, it's been a while since I've done an intro for a show, folks. But hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. It's great to see you all watching today, and welcome to the fifth episode of Digni System Crash. We finally made it to 5 episodes, and we could well be ending with a bang with this special episode because, folks, it's 2026. It's the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And I thought, what better way to celebrate America's 250th birthday than paying tribute to a great union that will take its rightful place as the eternal empire of the world. So I'm pleased to welcome a great panel of fine folks and fellow creators, and I'd like to make it clear to everyone that that is the most complicated intro I have ever made, and it was only 2 minutes long. I could have made it so much longer, especially with the country names, but there are only so many stands that you can put in a rhyme if you notice that. But it's great to see everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Been a long time since I've done a show of my own, first for 2026, and it's great to see folks. So we're going to catch up with the chat, then we're going to catch up with the panel. January's starting off a little slow, but that's all right. New year, new algorithm, that sort of thing. But it's great to see St. Hugo. It's great to see Jose. It's great to see myself. Great to see all the fine folks and fellow creators either on the panel or in the chat. So, what we're going to do, folks, before we really get into the sole topic for today's show, is catch up with the panel. And we're going to start off with Josh. How have you been, Josh, since we've last had a good talk?
Well, it's been a while actually since you and I had the opportunity to chit chat. For the most part, just recovering from the holidays with the kiddos, with the family. Getting the two older kiddos back into the routine of school. The younger two, the younger boy, he's already started back to daycare. The youngest, she starts up there next week, going with him. So taking care of family for the most part, and just doing my reading and notations, and preparing yet another review and thesis on the works of Peter Straub, who I consider a far superior spooky man to America's obsession with Stephen King, who has turned into a dipshit.
Oh, damn. Well, it's great to have you here. Folks, you can hear Josh's family, which is proof that he is living the American dream, folks. And I think we should all aspire to live the American dream, and we should give it to as many people as possible, whether they want it or not. So, how about you, Hugo? How have you been since we last had a good talk?
Well, Christmas and New Year was good. Kids were happy. Well, for that I'm grateful. And else, well, life keeps happening, eh?
Excellent. Most excellent. I'm hoping for a 2026 which is as good as 2025 was for me personally. I think 2025 has been my best year on all fronts, especially the past few months. And, I have high hopes that 2026 will be a repeat of the final months of 2025. I hope to have as great a year as America will. Case in point with Jose, who is fully draped in his Americana freedom of speech and his MAGA hat and his Chinese-made headphones, which really embodies the spirit of the United
How did
States.
you know they were Sony? How did you know they were Sony's?
Well, Chinese, Japanese, I really can't tell the difference. But how have you been since we last had a good talk?
My mother almost burned the house down this morning.
With herself inside?
With all of us inside, she decided to try
Oh,
to
dear.
cook a breakfast biscuit in the microwave for a total of 25 minutes. What?
Isn't it like the third time she's almost burned everybody alive in your house?
Probably like the 80th, 90th. We are Hispanic, so murder is constantly on the minds of Hispanic women. And especially I mean, look, they have to protect themselves because they might get annexed or something like that. I don't know, but I'm here for America. I've got my energy drink. There's nothing more American than being full Kyle, drinking American energy drink, and punching holes in the drywall. So yeah, you know what, America, f yeah, f yeah.
Good. Very good. And look, man, it took longer to make that intro than it takes to make network videos. Okay, that's
Interesting.
how complicated the editing process of getting all the clips and putting them together is, and
Yeah.
trying to make it make sense with the music playing as well.
I would say to ask John for help, but it's like pulling teeth to get him to do anything. I've asked him 100 times for infrastructure for our channel, and forget about it. He does the bare minimum.
Yeah, well, that's what you get when you have a family like Alky John. My goodness.
Yeah,
But
I
how
mean,
about
y'all get the
you?
American
That's
dream.
because you don't have kids.
Oh dear. But speaking of dreams, Legion, how have you been since we last had a good talk?
Well, it's been quite a while. Life has been extremely busy. Have been traveling, not for fun, but for personal / even maybe some business reasons, try to make extra money. So anyway, but it's good to be back. I've been gone so long that quite frankly, I had to update my computer and I had to restart sign into StreamYards. So yeah, I was an afterthought for a while.
Oh damn. Well, I bet you guys wish you were Greenlanders right about now, because they're going to be made millionaires before the end of the year, folks. As for me, I've been doing very well. The start of 2026 hasn't been as good as, say, the end of 2025. But that's what happens when you make more videos on YouTube. It means less views. So we're going to make less videos, and hopefully that leads to more views, because this platform is fucking mental. I will be amazed if I am not struck for the intro, because I used lots of material from the mainstream media. But I used it in a way that can be construed to be anti-American, so I'll probably get away with it. But this is a pro-America show, and this is a pro-America channel. Yes, it does say American Empire Special, but when you capture foreign leaders, you're kind of an empire at that point.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, I guess on the bright side, this is why you now opened a Rumble channel in case YouTube decide you were too naughty.
Yep, we got last time I checked, we were at 20 followers. The more the merrier. We appreciate everyone who supports this network and myself personally, and I am very grateful for everyone's support in this trying time. A time so trying, I'm desperately struggling to find a pen. I know. We weren't supposed to do timestamps.
I thought you were. I thought you were Jewish. I thought that you people had the ballpoint pens everywhere.
No, we can't seemingly find any at the moment. But oh wait, I found a solution. There we go. I'm gonna get it right now.
Solution?
The opposite problem. I have like 70 pens in every damn room of the house, but you can ask my wife. I have a problem with that. I just keep collecting.
That's because you're a writer.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
Excellent. Well, speaking of writing, folks, I'm just going to write it down for 11 minutes, because, celebrating Pax Americana is what we're going to do for today's show. If you haven't already, like the stream, share the stream. I would say donations are always welcome, but we're not monetized. I'm aiming to monetize by May of this year, especially May the 21st, 2026, for no obvious reason, and I cannot elaborate any more than that. But we're going to celebrate all things America, folks, and the best way to celebrate is to start at the beginning. Now, most people, when they think of when did the United States begin, most people tend to think of 1776 with the Declaration of Independence. Now, we have to consider the fact that the initial uprising against British colonial rule took place the year before, in the year 1775, and several institutions that still exist to this day began before the Declaration of Independence, like the Minutemen, as an example. The first and earliest examples of American service personnel that predate the country of origin. Josh, we can hear your family.
Well,
Oh yeah, sorry.
Digny, remember, according to the black people in the DEI positions, America was founded in 1619 when the first slave set foot on this land, shawty.
Well, that would assume that British Americans were Americans, which is nonsense.
Exactly.
And that would assume that anyone associated with the 1619 project wasn't a dishonest huckster.
I was going to use another word to describe them, but we're on YouTube.
Lying cunt.
If that mindset were true, then the founders of the United States were the British Crown. So that's complete nonsense, folks.
Mm-hmm.
America did not begin. The United States of America did not begin in 1619. Okay, right. Officially, the United States gained, sovereignty, national sovereignty in 1783. Why don't you mute yourself, Josh? It's like a bad Zoom call meeting. But the United States, after years of conflict, the Revolutionary War, it was more akin to a civil war than an actual conflict between two sovereign nations, considering that you had patriots on one side and loyalists on the other. It ultimately came to an end with, ironically, the Treaty of Versailles, ladies and gentlemen, because not the one that we all know and love, but rather the one before that, which ultimately led to the foundation of the United States. And from there, the US went from a regional power to a superpower in less than 200 years. Now, how the hell do you do that in such a short period of time? I'll tell you guys, freedom and guns, in that order. The First and Second Amendment to the American Constitution serve as the backbone for American society. The United States wouldn't be as strong and as stable as it is today without freedom of speech and the right to bear arms. They are both integral aspects of what it means to be American. The other 8 amendments, from 3 to 10, which also came along soon after the United States was founded, not many people remember those. I mean, some people remember like pleading the fifth and that sort of thing. But when you think of the amendments, you think mostly of the first and the second. You think of the 13th because of slavery, you think of the 19th because of women, and you think of the 25th because of a crazy person that could be in office.
Can I just say the
rest-
19th ruined everything?
No, I think the 18th Amendment ruined everything, and that's why the 21st Amendment exists. So you have to think about it that way, folks. But the reason we bring this up, the reason we're having this special episode, is that 2026 has started off with a bang for the United States. Quite literally, if you've looked at the thumbnail of this show, you will see Trump, a picture of Trump during a press conference. He was pretending to be a trans deadlifter, and he was making all sorts of weird noises and sounds and facial expressions that made even me uncomfortable. And of course, there is a picture of Nicolas Maduro, former president of Venezuela, looking like a bad cosplay of Dr. Disrespect after being captured during Operation Go Fuck Yourself, or whatever they're calling it.
The big difference there was Maduro was, basically keel hauled in for foisting drugs and gangs on other people, whereas Dr. Disrespect is being inspected and investigated for foisting himself on minors.
Yes, it is, as we say, a minor inconvenience. But I want to make it very clear right here, right now, folks, that if you want to boil down the United States at its best and at its worst, you look at the recent situation. the capabilities of Americans are second to none. If you guys want to get shit done, you get shit done.
Mhm.
The operation is a living, breathing example of that, but it also goes to show that the United States, great as the Union is, at times does cross red lines that no other country on planet Earth, past or present, would dare to do, right?
Mhm.
And that is what fundamentally concerned me throughout, the past few days. That's not to undermine the fact that without the United States, the rest of the world would be in a far worse position. Yet when both friend and foe of America start getting scared,
Mhm.
that's when you're in uncharted territory. Okay? That's the concern I have. So that's why I called this episode the American Empire Special, because only empires
Mhm.
cross those red lines. And it's not the first time this has happened. And it was done to Panama
Mhm.
back when they had a crazy dictator who supported the CIA for decades, but then decided, go fuck yourself. And he
Mhm.
got removed and imprisoned and eventually released, which I found surprising. But let's go around the panel, because I've asked Jose about this before. But Jose, what do you make of America?
Well, I mean, right now, I think that this whole thing with Maduro, obviously, they're spinning it, as a big thing, a big win, for America, because there are some things that factor in here. People go, "Oh, well, he went in there for the oil." Yes, we did. I mean, I don't think people are going to be bitching in about a month if now Trump has basically officially said, "Oh, thanks, you finally picked up the garbage." Anyway, now that Trump has officially said that the oil is going into American reserves, which oil has always been a speculative market. Basically, once you just say something, oh, I've started a war in Iran, oil goes up. Oh, I've ended a war, oil goes down. It's always a speculative market. So just by Trump putting out a press conference, you're going to see the gas prices start to come down, which again affects everything. A lot of people don't understand that economically, gas prices are tethered to your shipping prices, your transport of goods, everything. Inflation is intrinsically linked to basically the amount of energy you have in your country, your oil reserves. We know that Venezuela has more than Saudi Arabia. I don't think that Maduro is pressed. You see him in the pictures. He's always giving the thumbs up. He looks like my boy, the late, great Eric Martinez. He looks like he might be his dad. He's always doing that. Seems to be very happy. This is the best thing that could have happened to Maduro. The problem with being a dictator is, one, your enemies want you dead. And two, your friends want you dead because they want what you have. So the only way out for him was to basically get arrested. I think that's the best thing that could happen to him. He's going to get a sweetheart deal. The man knows where many bodies are buried, aside from Hugo Chavez, who was basically teabagged in the process of this raid. But Maduro is going to bargain for what ends up a sweetheart deal for Nicolas Maduro. And he knows he has a lot of intel on what goes on in Cuba, China, Russia, Iran, everywhere else. And information is the most valuable form of currency that there is. Nicolas Maduro is going to be fine. People, oh my God, they're gonna do this and do that. No, the man's going to bargain. The guy is living better in a cell than I'm living as a free man. Not worried about what happens to Nicolas Maduro, even in the slightest.
And that's the saddest thing I've found in regards to this whole situation.
Yeah.
While in terms of foreign policy, America is going on these wild adventures abroad, there are situations like Jose's where they can barely manage at home. And now we're getting reports of the American government directly, what's the word I'm looking for? Searching out? No, that's the wrong word. This is the worst time to have a blooper. Reaching out. There we go. Reaching out to the Greenlanders to make them all millionaires in exchange for Greenland becoming a colony of America. Well, while folks like Jose, among many in the United States, are struggling with the cost of living. That, as well as Josh and maybe Legion. I don't know about his personal circumstances, but it just goes to show where the priorities lie. and I think that's very, very
Well-
dangerous. It's one thing to
Mhm.
cross a red line and kidnap a foreign leader.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, America's done it before. You can get away with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Threatening America's enemies, yes, we're used to that rhetoric, and sometimes that rhetoric spills over. What really irked me about this whole situation is the Greenland situation, because Denmark is hardly a fucking rogue state. Denmark, in fact, has been a model ally for the United States. And even if it is a small country with only, 6 million people, it is the ally or the model of an ally America wants, but it's still being treated as a fucking like a piece of crap
I
in that
think the
in that
reason
sense.
for that is the current leading position within the EU.
Go ahead, Hugo.
Though that could be a message, since, well, US and EU aren't exactly real allies, and
And that's a big problem. And that is a really big problem. I mean, historically, the US and Western Europe, of course, Eastern Europe is a more recent phenomenon, but historically, the US and Western Europe were two peas in a pod, especially Britain, France, America. Okay. Of course, Germany was split in half, now reunited, bit more of a leader in the European sphere. But when you look at it country by country and not look at the multinationals, Denmark is the model ally of the United States. And when you're like, I want to buy your territory, it's like, it's not for sale. Oh, well, then I won't consult you and I'll reach out to the islanders themselves. Don't worry, folks. Jose didn't get the call. His device is disconnected. He's back now. We haven't gotten rid of him. Okay, he's right here.
also the timing.
Mhm.
Well, we have
Go on.
the capture of Johnny Somali, the dictator. I think that would be a fitting comparison, a cheap trial run for real foes. Then we have the offer to buy Greenland, addressing Denmark, who is currently having the leading spot in the EU, and the upcoming WEF meeting starting this January 19th. So, what messages are supposed to be conveyed? Well, that's up for debate, but I think all of these things, are connected, and the timing is on purpose.
Well, that's why context is very important. Though in terms of buying territory, right? It's only something historically, like recent history, is only something the United States does. No one else does that, right? Okay, the nations that buy and sell land to the United States do that, but in terms of other countries and other relations, it's not something that's done. It's a uniquely American thing because look at the United States, look at how it was founded, look at how it developed and grew in size. It grew as a result of that model. Okay, not so for places like Denmark or places like, oh, I don't know, Mexico. The U.S. has an interesting history with Mexico in terms of conflicts and sales and that sort of thing. But it's getting to a point where Greenland wants to be an independent nation, but can't realistically be one because it cannot be self-sufficient, considering their population and their geography. They just can't. A nation of what? Less than 60,000 people. It simply isn't logistically possible for them to do so. That's why Denmark has the arrangement with Greenland where they are practically autonomous in all matters except for defense. And Denmark makes sure that Greenland doesn't get cut off, because if it was cut off, they'd all be dead in a year. It's fucking freezing in Greenland. I know it says Greenland, but it's just a block of ice on land. Okay.
Yeah.
If the United States really wanted to, the US could blockade Greenland and starve out the entire population for a year and they'd all be dead. Right? I know that's a sick thing considering we're supposed to celebrate the United States, but let's face it, considering recent circumstances, can we really say that America is beneath doing that?
That wouldn't serve a purpose.
No.
It
Buying
would
the
set an
country out,
example,
that
though.
would be a power move, but
Yeah.
just to get rid of the population would
Yeah.
just be shooting yourself into the foot.
Yeah.
Look, you could have called me insane for proposing that last year, right? Even a few weeks back. Just like, Digni, you're fucking mad. America would never do that to an ally. Would never do that to anyone. Land of the free, home of the brave. Then recent events happened, and I'm like, I don't know what the United States is gonna fucking do next. They could do anything.
Well, given that the members of the UN Security Council were calling for the United States to be isolated and cut off before the Venezuelan operation, I'd say maybe this was a good slap in the face to say, hey, you want to cut us off? Think a fucking again.
I mean, I agree with Josh. I mean, with friends like we have, who needs enemies? And
right, we're constantly called the villains. We're constantly called colonizers. Constantly called a nation of sexist, racist, istophobes. You know what? If you're a labelist villain and everything, fuck you. We'll be the villain and show you what a villain actually is. We'll snatch your dictator out of power. By the way, you can only claim to be offended or scandalized by someone being snatched out of a position of leadership if they were put there legitimately or held that position legitimately in the first place. He was a thief of the office, therefore we snatched him out of the office. Big fucking whoop. If you're offended, kiss the fattest part of my ass. There's plenty of region to cover. Did you know, Digny, that according to the CDC and the International Association of Psychiatry, which is a worldwide network of shrinks, I don't know how much, I want to give them in terms of weight for analysis, but there's only one country with more psychopaths per capita than the United States in the world. It happens to be Russia. Most of ours end up in special forces. They end up being SEALs and Deltas and Rangers. And we sent a bunch of those psychopaths who've been itching for something to do for the last however many years. We said, hey, how would you like to pluck somebody who doesn't belong in a position of leadership out of that position without killing him? That probably made a couple of them go, oh, man, I had a special, praised little bullet with his name on it, carved and everything to go in the cartridge. Ah, well, I'll just fire it into one of his guards. We'll see how that works out. I'm sorry, but at a certain point, as Jose was saying, with friends like these, what do you want from us? Eventually, someone's going to say, fuck you.
The EU who both hate us.
No, just the 0.01% who are sadly in power.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
The rest is...
And let's not forget, it comes down to an in short, do not fuck with us. We will kill our own in droves as we do every day. You don't think we'll knock you down a few pegs?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree with Hugo. It's not the populace. It's the power that really just doesn't like us because they want us to adhere to European standards. And here's the thing: we fought a war to not do that. And I see plenty of y'all over there that are just kind of wishing that y'all had certain rights that your governments are not allowing you at all, which is horrible. I hate to see it happen to you guys over there. It's terrible when you got to worry about the fact that if you don't praise some guy named Muhammad, that you'll go to jail for more than he will for actually doing something to some kids somewhere or whatever else. So it is terrible. You make your dog jokingly make fun of an Austrian painter, and you end up going to court over it. I mean, what is that? That shouldn't be the case.
And it is insane.
Yeah,
it is insane. And I think
I'm making a historic prediction that also for Ursula von der Leyen will go down in history as a combination of the Austrian painter and a certain Russian of the same era.
Yes,
in combination. As an even worse example in the long run seen as a dictator.
Yes.
We also have to consider the fact that nothing screams freedom like an invasion. And you look at you look
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
Europe, you look at the history of
Mhm.
Europe and how it's gone
Mhm.
back and forth,
Mhm.
especially over the past, let's say, 100 years for the sake of argument, right? It's
Mhm.
basically been which empire is going to come up on top, the German one or the Russian one. And it
Yeah.
ended up being the American one, right? And I think what
Mhm.
we need to realize is
Mhm.
if the United States wants to lead the world, then
Mhm.
it cannot be, on one hand,
Mhm.
an imperialistic empire that wants to
Mhm.
spread its, its wings across the
Mhm.
world and still
Mhm.
be known as the land of the free and home of the brave. There's
Yeah.
nothing brave about bullying friends. Let's
Yeah.
even if they
Mhm.
call you a cunt on occasion,
Mhm.
okay? There's
Yeah.
nothing brave about bullying friends. And I
Mhm.
I consider Denmark,
Mhm.
especially if it was Germany, it would be a damn well different story because the
Yeah.
Germans don't
Look.
pay their fucking defense bills. Their
Look.
government is not nice to the United States historically.
Look.
And I think it's very important to point
Well,
that out.
I mean, the flip side to that, though, is, and to be honest, is, if you're talking about friends and that's someone who's grown up in the Bronx, sometimes you got to punch one of your friends in the mouth because he overstepped his bounds. So
Well
that's
put.
also sort of the case there. I mean, but in the case of America right now and everything going on, I think also one of the big things is it's like a big game of Civilization. I hate to compare it to a video game, but Civilization is a good example because you don't have to physically take over the world in Civilization. You get a cultural victory if your sphere of influence spreads. Well, what sphere of influence has been spreading across this globe? It's communist interference. Everything that you see in the EU is adjacent to what China wants for its people, not freedom of speech. The opposite. You criticize us, you go to jail. You say something we don't like, you go to jail. You post something we don't like, you go to jail. I don't know. That seems more in line with Xi Jinping. We'll debank you, we'll deboost you, you'll be unpersoned, you will be Tommy Robinson or whatever else. I mean, that's sort of kind of where the rest of the world has been headed towards this Chinese sort of watchful eye state. Now, America does have to caution itself because sometimes it's if you gaze into the abyss gazes into you. But that's sort of it is a fine line, and that is the dangerous part to what Digni's saying to his defense. Because again, you could easily become the tyrant you're trying to depose. Yeah.
And in the scenario, folks,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
let's just say it all ends right now and
Mhm.
there's no escalation of any kind. Let's
Mhm.
just say it ends right now.
Mhm.
All the United States has done
Mhm.
is remove one man
Mhm.
from a position of power,
Mhm.
and that's about it,
Mhm.
right? In terms of actions, not in terms of rhetoric, but in terms of
Mhm.
actions,
Mhm.
that's all that has taken place. The regime is still in power.
Mhm.
The people who propped him up are still in office. The
Mhm.
military structure is still there. The
Mhm.
regime is still there. And if it just ends all like that, the only point of the operation
Mhm.
was to capture a single individual, right? Which to me it's like cutting off your nose to spite your face at that point.
Mhm.
So it has to, in order to justify what's been going on,
Mhm.
it has to escalate. And the stakes have to get higher, which
Mhm.
creates that dangerous precedent, right?
Mhm.
And that's the thing that worries me. Another
Mhm.
thing that worries me, and then we'll get, Legion's perspective because he is a real American. And by
Mhm.
real
Yeah.
American, I mean he's a soldier.
Mhm.
But one thing that worries me, or a military policeman, one of those,
Mhm.
is that if the United States does say, go fuck yourself, EU, drop dead, that sort of thing,
Mhm. Mhm.
when you look at the European continent,
Mhm.
one of three nations will dominate Europe without
Mhm.
the United States having a presence.
Mhm.
It's either Germany, which would be so fucking ironic considering history, Russia,
Mhm.
which wouldn't really serve US interests, let's face it,
Mhm.
or, surprise, surprise, and this will hit folks for six, Turkey, right?
Mhm.
Because in terms of NATO, number
Mhm.
one is America, number two is Turkey. In
Mhm.
terms of funding, in terms of military might, outside of the NATO alliance,
Mhm.
Turkey has the largest military presence. So, from my
Also, Turkey
perspective, oh,
has a most curious geography, being placed on
exactly.
two continents, the sea connections, the land connections. It is a nexus point in a way.
I mean, look at the history of the Ottoman Empire, and at its peak, it had a piece of the pie fucking all over that part of the world. So Turkey has a lot of potential. But Legion, we're going to get your perspective on what you've seen or heard so far. Eagle Eric, the same can be said about the United States. Don't argue a battle of obesity with Americans, please. But go ahead, Legion.
About 70% of Americans. So the excuse me, the issue with this right here, and one of the reasons that the European Union and a lot of the rest of the world have a problem with the United States is because we've historically kind of put our finger in there and said, we're not going to do what you want us to do. I'm sorry. That's putting it nicely in most cases. Now, again, Venezuela is a socialist country. Socialism is basically birth communism, fascism, all that kind of stuff. With what's going on in Europe in today's world is a form of severe fascism, because, you can go to the United Kingdom and get arrested for bad social media posts. But if you decide to, as a Muslim man, grape a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, 20-year-old woman, you're just like, oh, well, it's a difference of opinions, it's a difference of culture. No, it's not. It's these people hate our guts, and quite frankly, they're infecting the European Union, and they have been for a long time, because the European Union has basically turned into a globalist mentality. And the United States doesn't fall into that category. For one, because we have freedom of speech. Two, we have the guns to tell you to go kick rocks. The whole entire world, barring nuclear weapons, could attack the United States on our own soil, and we would destroy the rest of the world. That's just the way it is. The United States has the technological advancements by far to defeat everybody else, again, barring nuclear weapons. Again, United States and Russia leading the charge on that front. But the long story short is that they don't want freedom of speech. They don't want us to take down these people that they're bad people. I mean, Venezuela is not a good country. They supply oil to China. They supply oil to Iran. They basically Iran is the biggest terrorist state on the planet. And so, no, one dictator going bye-bye. Yeah, we probably just replaced his second in command. She's no better. If anything, she's more radical. So no.
Also, an important thing is why the European leaders have to be against the USA, because the European population sees things very differently. And the last thing our leaders here want is a shining beacon of what could be. And people are fed up. There's not a single country, well, maybe Poland, but the rest, the government is acting against their respective populations.
There are a few nations in the EU that literally tell Brussels to go fuck themselves. Poland is one. Hungary is one. Increasingly, Slovakia has been another. Poor Bulgaria. You recently adopted the euro. That's the biggest fucking mistake you could ever make as a country. But
yeah, I'm always sad when Hazel's talking about that.
Let's assume the best case scenario for the United States, right? The operation in Venezuela is a success. The Americans negotiate directly with Greenland to buy the country, take it over, make everyone in Greenland a fucking millionaire, which is going to piss off Jose and Legion and Josh, because it's like everyone in Greenland's a millionaire now, but I can struggle. I struggle with the cost of living, so that's going to cause a bit of controversy. What's the next step? Because I know people, right? If they keep winning, the stakes will get higher until they lose, right? Because you got America, you got Alaska, you got Greenland. What do you got in the middle of all those three areas? Canada. Is that going to be the next push now?
I hope
the United States going into Canada and turning it not into a state, but into a dominion, like the Dominion of Canada, like a.
We would have to. We would have to. We couldn't give them rights, because if we gave them rights, they would vote Democrat every single time. Because that's the way we left this country.
So that's
how about
the other thing is we have to accept
emu birds to Canada.
let's not, gentlemen, let's not forget. You look at Puerto Rico, right?
Mhm.
An island with millions of people who live there, right? Who
Mhm.
are Americans who don't have the right to vote for a presidential candidate.
No,
Mhm.
because
Okay,
it's
it is
territory.
Thank God. Have you met
therefore
my
right.
aunt? I would rather she not. Okay.
Well,
I would
I've
much
met.
rather Cubans be a part of the United States than Puerto Ricans because Cubans
Absolutely.
are vehemently against communism and socialism. So,
Yeah.
Well,
you know, people flee
don't.
Cuba
Yeah.
and they go to Florida and then they become citizens and they historically vote red because this democratic socialism crap.
Well, Ryan,
Let's.
I could tell you a lot of the Puerto Ricans it's 50-50, but unfortunately there is a lot of corruption in Puerto Rico. I don't know if
Oh
you guys
yeah,
remember that Trump sent a bunch of supplies to Puerto Rico and the government.
Mhm.
No. And then
Governor.
what
Yep,
happened is she sat on all the damn water.
yep. She
Yep.
sat on water while the people starved and
Mhm.
basically just wilted away.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's one of those things again too. Depending on who does it, this is the most nonsensical crap in the history of the world. When Donald Trump was talking to Ukraine was the most corrupt country on the planet. And then when Joe Biden becomes
Still is.
president, all of a sudden there's Ukrainian flags everywhere, and all our politicians.
Absolutely.
And that goes for the rest of the world too.
Mhm.
These people sway back and forth because they don't have an actual spine. They have no real values. And look, Donald Trump, love him or hate him, at least the man has a set of rigid values, it seems, for the most part, when it comes to, okay, don't fuck with the United States, don't fuck us over. If you screw with us, I'm going to get you back and you're not going to like it.
Exactly.
You know what? Because the United States historically needs to, again, walk quietly, but carry a big goddamn fucking stick. Because again, you have, I have no issue with the Russian people. I have no issue with that. But you know what? The Russian government, not great. Again, same thing with China. I have no issue with the Chinese people. Chinese government, not great. Same thing with Iran. Now, there's probably a lot of people in Iran that hate our guts because you know they've been taught that. But Iran historically in the early 80s and 90s, late 80s, early 90s was a much more modern, westernized kind of country, and then
It
the weirdos
was.
took over.
That was during because the 80s and 90s was the period where Persia essentially fully developed into the Iran we know today. I think it was the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Persia turned it into the Iran we know today. Of course, the hostage crisis, the Iran-Iraq war, that sort of thing.
Well, here's the sad thing: that was a very small percent of the population, and by virtue of mathematics, Europe and the UK have allowed more than the amount of Muslims that it took to flip Iran into that kind of a nation already.
Which just goes to show the power of revolutionary further. I have said this before in regards to this situation. I'm going to say it again. No nation has been vindicated more than the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, because I think that's a far more fantastic example of this mindset when compared to, say, Russia or China or even Iran, because North Korea has made it clear that without an independent nuclear deterrent, the United States would exterminate that regime. Not wipe it out, not get rid of it, exterminate it and remove everyone within it.
But Digni, CNN told me that Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump are best friends because Trump went there the one time. But and by the way, that's the whole problem with the spin doctors of the mainstream media, who, by the way, are now glossing over the fact that Joe Biden offered $25 million to anyone who could bring him Nicolas Maduro during his administration.
But this feeds into, and the reason why I mention North Korea is that they've always had this narrative for decades now that if you don't have your own nuclear weapons, the United States will destroy you. That has been their central argument to justify their regime ever since the fall of the Soviet Union. Before that, it was a different story, East versus West, that sort of thing. Let's face it, guys, if Venezuela had an independent nuclear deterrent, none of what has happened over the past week would have happened. I think we can all agree on that note.
No,
practical reason.
I would very much agree with that. It's also one of the reasons too that again, that the United States is vehemently against Iran getting any type of nuclear weapons, because these are these are horrendous people, for one, and I don't think they really ought to have them, because they would hit the button overnight and they would just obliterate another country. You can like Israel or you don't have to. I don't care. I'm not here for funding anybody else's war. I'm very much make America great again.
Yep.
But I don't like dumping a bunch of money into frivolous wars, Ukraine and Israel alike. And but at the same time, Iran would nuke Israel overnight. Just it'd be gone.
I mean, on that Israel note, Ryan, I would say that we would probably be less inclined to deal with them, if not for the fact that Israel also has nukes and are more likely to use them without us sort of getting in the middle of it. They would just be like, oh, we're just gonna glass Iran. It's cool.
I honestly believe that when the Iranians, I believe the Iranians did cross a red line when they made it public. They made it public. Their president, their political president, because they have a religious order that actually runs the country, but their political president, Ahmadinejad, remember him, ladies and gentlemen? Is he still alive? I think he is. But he made it perfectly clear that as soon as Iran possesses nuclear technology, they would nuke Israel. That crosses a red line on so many damn issues. It's no wonder the Israelis are so fervent that Iran should not possess nuclear capabilities, because there's one thing you must never do, folks, and that is use nuclear weapons for offensive purposes. It is insane. It is absolutely insane.
That's the reason why a hand grenade is a poor choice for close quarter combat.
Yep.
But when we look to get the train back on the tracks, when we look at the United States, right, and I'm gonna go off where it's currently going, because the Trump administration has made it clear to Congress that they are going to reach out to Greenland, to the authorities there, because it is autonomously run within the Kingdom of Denmark. They have a very unique position that not many parts of countries get. The Greenlanders run themselves in almost every aspect except for defense. Okay, which is a very good deal if you want to have your cake and eat it. Josh has to go and drive to work now. He'll be back shortly. So the Americans can, in a sense, reach out directly to the Greenlanders and negotiate a settlement. Of course, the Danish aren't going to like that for obvious reasons, but we could see a scenario in the coming weeks and months of the United States essentially bribing its way into possessing Greenland by bribing the entire population. 60,000 people, $1 million per person. That includes kiddos, and they become part of the U.S. as a territory or a colony or whatever you guys consider that as. Right.
It would be chump change to us too, because it'd be like $58.3 million to buy off everybody, because the population is like 58,300,006 or something like that.
No, it's under 60,000 people.
I was going to say there were some developments today that have sort of also sort of sweetened the pot, at least for Americans. It won't be an immediate change. Nothing is. But it is interesting that the Trump administration did announce today that they are not going to allow large companies to acquire housing in bulk like they've been doing. So BlackRock, all these companies that have been buying housing to the point where Americans literally cannot own a house because BlackRock is buying them and holding them hostage. That's over with. Essentially, that's what Trump is putting an end to. So that is important, because of the fact that one of the biggest deterrents to people to start a family, to pursue the American dream, is the fact that they cannot get out of living in a pod and eating the bugs, quite literally, because they're either stuck in apartment life, renter life. There are no available avenues to basically become an independent homeowner if you don't have a home already. So this is something, I mean, it does look like now the pivot is going to have to be domestic issues. And that is one thing that I think that administration is going to have to do, because of the fact people are intervention, oh my God. But you know what? It doesn't mean that we're forgotten quite yet, because again, they have to win the midterms and they have to throw some red meat at the populace. And that's a big one for a lot of people.
I honestly believe that if Americans are well satisfied in domestic affairs, then the American people wouldn't mind these foreign adventures. Honestly,
Mhm.
I honestly believe that. As long
Mhm.
as issues are sorted out or managed
Mhm.
at home,
Mhm.
the administration can do what they want abroad. And I think
Mhm.
that's what Trump should focus on. Is very similar to what I believe, right? I
Mhm.
get my own house in order before I
Mhm.
fix other people's houses. That should
Mhm.
be the way it
Mhm.
is. I think
Mhm.
one of the reasons why this
Mhm.
has been so controversial is
Mhm.
America has enough problems at home. We
Mhm.
can't
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
add more problems,
Yeah.
right? By, regime changing Venezuela or taking over Greenland or threatening
Oh,
Canada and Mexico and Cuba.
But
It's like
yes.
but
Although,
there is
yeah.
an
Mhm.
aspect.
Mhm.
Think of the "this is fine" meme.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm all for fixing your home first,
Mhm.
like Peterson told.
Yeah.
But if you're surrounded by, for
Mhm.
the lack of the better term, enemies,
Mhm.
and I think even
Mhm.
Trump said himself,
Mhm.
stable neighbors are important.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
yeah, that is, you
And
can't win. I
he-
always hated the phrase 4D chess. There is no 4D chess. There's
exactly.
only those who suck at it and those who actually can play it. You have to be aware of every piece.
Exactly. And you know what, to what Hugo is saying, here's the thing. As an American, I can say that I'm more okay with dealing with places that are close by. All right. Found a chick in Greenland. What a coincidence. Oh, there you
are you
go. It
are
looks like
you an
that's a lottery ticket. But
are you an American, my good man? Oh
uh,
my goodness, Greenland, protect your women for
I'm more
goodness sake.
fine with America getting involved in their neighbors in the Americas than anywhere else, because you think about the mass immigration. Why is there mass immigration? A lot of these immigrants are not directly Mexican. They are from the rest of South America, and Mexico
Yes.
allows them to pass through. Now, when that area is destabilized, which it's been due to Venezuelan communism, and I know people personally who are from Venezuela that came here, asylum seekers that are legally here because they were escaping Venezuelan, occupation. They had everything. They had homes. They had money. The daughter was like Miss Teen Venezuela growing up and everything. Lost everything because of Chavez and Maduro. And basically had to start over again. When that backyard is in order, when you've mowed your lawn, so to speak, those people have no incentive to come over here. And so, getting all that socialist crap out of South America prevents them from even coming over here to begin with. But then, secondly, as far as the oil is concerned, we always keep forgetting that Joe Biden literally drained all of our strategic oil reserves because he didn't want to. He didn't want to open up pipelines. He didn't want to take care of what was going on. Gas was going up to $3, almost $4, $5, and I think California went as high as $7.
It's
And
almost 8.
yeah, he didn't replenish it. Oh.
Well, I would like to make it clear
Mhm.
because I understand the narrative of looking
Yeah.
after Americans first and America's backyard, right? I would usually sympathize with that notion. Yet,
Mhm.
if you consider two continents to be your
Mhm.
backyard,
Mhm.
I don't want to see your farm. Okay, God damn! If you think two continents are your backyard,
Mhm.
I understand the mindset of the Monroe Doctrine, right?
Mhm.
Despite
Yeah.
the fact that President Monroe himself said that the United States at the time didn't have the military capacity to carry it out, so they had
Mhm.
to rely on, of all
Mhm.
things, the
Well,
British Royal Navy to stop the fucking Spanish reasserting control
yeah.
of large swathes of Latin America because they
Mhm.
almost all spoke fucking Spanish.
Well,
But it's a very arrogant mindset to consider two continents your backyard.
I mean, but I'll bite. Here's the hot take: you're not going to enter the country illegally if everywhere is America. I mean,
It's a hot take. It's also it is true.
Yeah.
I definitely I'm all for getting your backyard in order. That means the surrounding countries. So we have two
Yeah.
that basically surround us. We have Canada, which is full of people who are out of their fucking mind. I'm not saying all Canadians. That's very disingenuous, but there's a lot of Canadians who have a severe case of TDS. And on top of that, then you have Mexico, which is if you think the Mexican president is in charge, you're drinking
Oh,
the
boy.
water down there. That's
Oh,
what you're
boy.
doing.
I've
So
ne-
anyway,
I've never known a Mexican called Shine Bomb.
I've never known a political candidate who had 50 of her opposition killed before she
Yeah.
came to power.
Yeah, but it was like like 38, 39 legitimate number. It was something
Yeah.
insane. So
Yeah.
anyway, now again with the Greenland thing here, and this is the brass tacks of it right here off the Greenland. We don't want Greenland because you know what, we love the ice or we love the people there, or we want another big chunk of fucking land to do whatever the hell we want with. We want it because
Jack Daniels, they have the ice.
yeah,
Which
they
makes
well, if we could sell ice around the world, then I guess maybe you have something, but no. The long and the short of it is that it is a gateway to controlling a large chunk of the Arctic Ocean, which basically limits Russia from moving freely about in that area. And that's where the Russian Navy pretty much operates, and that's where you get a lot of their goods move through and all that stuff. So that's what it is. There is one military base in Greenland, one. It's an Air Force base. It's not any type of sea command or anything like that. It is an Air Force base, which means airplanes only. And probably one of the first things we would do, hypothetically, if we do acquire this deal, which I don't think we're going to, we would put a naval base. We would several naval bases right at the top of Greenland. Just there they are. And we would send a large swath of U.S. forces up there. And again, we have the largest navy on the planet. It's not even close. And the other three closest countries, their navies do not encompass those three countries combined. Our whole entire navy. We have literally 13 Nimitz class, aircraft carriers. The next closest one, I believe, is Great Britain, who has 3. So
Which is insane considering that in terms of naval power, Britain has almost completely stripped itself of naval power in the past 60 years. And yet we still have 3 state-of-the-art aircraft carriers. I honestly think the only reason for that is the Falklands. Because of Argentina and the fact that the Argentinians, who are friends of Trump, which worries the Brits, because if what works in Greenland works, if the adventures of America work in Greenland and in say Canada or Venezuela, or I've heard Cuba be mentioned, what's to stop Trump from calling up Malay and say, well, why don't you take the Falklands? It's got lots of oil. You want oil, don't you? Well, take the Falkland Islands for us, which would put the UK, which is a bitterly divided country at the moment, it would give that fucking wanker Starmer a lifeline that Thatcher had, because she was universally hated during that period until the Argentinians attacked the Falklands, and that war ensured she got reelected time and time again until the poll tax. And the poll tax, folks, is essentially Jose pays the same home tax as a multi-billionaire. And everyone went collectively fucking insane in the UK because that was nuts. But the point is, in regards to this whole situation, is that Legion is correct in his assessment. In terms of economic and military power, the United States can do what it wants. And from my perspective, the only defense any nation will have against that kind of aggression is nuclear capability.
Well, I mean, here's the flip side to it.
Never forget that a whole bunch of nuclear silos are placed in Germany from the States. So, if push comes to shove against Europe, I mean, they don't even have to launch them, just detonate them. And thinking of Russia, it's not that far, especially Moscow and so on.
But you know why America gets the say so much, to be honest, it's what's called sort of fair is fair. You put in on it, you get the most out of it. And what I mean by that is basically, and Trump has had this argument since he got back into office, and it was a very valid argument. And some of the European nations have pushed back against it pretty hard. A couple of them have said, okay, we're going to do the right thing. But most of them have been very upset about this. And Canada's been upset about this, is that if you're in NATO and you're not paying your 3 to 5% GDP that you're supposed to, then screw you, because it's not going to be, it's coming out of America's dime constantly to defend, to get involved, to deal with this problem or that problem. If you want America to be the world police, you better pay into that system. I mean, that's sort of the way that he looks at it, and it's true. And these people have not paid their fair share. Biden did not make them pay their fair share. Trump has been trying to get them to pay their fair share. And I mean, that's the way it goes. If you have allies, then your allies should be good allies and hold up their end of the bargain, not go, well, we want free healthcare, medically assisted suicide, and we want transgender surgeries for free, and blah 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 blah, and pay for that when they should be paying their defense budgets. They keep telling you that they're afraid of Russia, afraid of Russia, afraid of Russia, and then you don't want to pay your defense bill. If I don't pay my light bill, I have no lights.
Yep.
And that may happen to me by the end of the month.
Exactly. And I think
Yeah.
people need to understand that I think a majority of Americans would be in favor of leaving NATO. NATO has served its purpose. NATO was purpose-built to stop the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union does not exist anymore. It hasn't existed until Christmas Day of 1991. It has served its purpose. The European Union and every NATO member except the US, let's just put it that way, are capable of fending off Russia. They have been through the war in Ukraine. Okay. They have been, even with a bit of American assistance. Okay. So if the EU want to be hostile to Russia, that is their right. If they want to do that, but it shouldn't be off the subsidy of the United States. Because if the United States truly wishes to be America first, then this is, in terms of foreign policy, this is America first. Okay, you could argue that it's a big bad conspiracy, and we will argue that on tomorrow's network show with Jose and Alki John over at Cancel This Podcast. But let's think about it this way. If you have the American sphere, the European sphere, and the Russian and Chinese sphere in a conflict between the EU and Russia, don't really know who's going to win that, because the Turks don't want a conflict with Russia. Okay, they don't. They want to be friendly with Russia, which is odd.
Speaking again for the populations, no one wants a conflict with Russia, and that's exactly the point. It's the threat of the European Commission towards every population. We will escalate the war with Russia beyond Ukraine if you don't fall in line.
But let's face it, Hugo, if the United States leaves NATO, the European capacity to wage any kind of conflict with the Russian Federation is significantly undermined. Because what would leaving NATO mean? The full withdrawal of all American assets and personnel from the European continent, including the United Kingdom, which isn't part of the EU. It might as well be part of the EU because it has a pro-EU government at the moment. But
Arcom and Ofcom all working together. Arcom being from France and basically the same as Ofcom, together with the e-safety commissioner from Australia. So no, it doesn't mean jack shit if you're talking about EU, Europe, or even Australia or wherever. And there are countless snakes in the grass in the states acting on a state-by-state basis.
So that is the great danger.
Here's a little bit of context for you. Germany has 119 U.S. military installations within it. 119. That's just Germany. So if you scatter that throughout, the fact that each other European nation probably has a scattering of, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 10. Germany being the largest example, because again, after World War II, the United States came in and we helped try to lift Germany back up on our side of the wall. So anyway, but the long and the short of it is that basically Europe is kind of like a territory of the United States from the sheer volume of military installations that there are. That is a massive deterrent for Russia to do anything to the EU. If we were to withdraw everything, all equipment, all personnel, just turn over all of the military bases to the European Union, Russia would probably start poking at them. And the thing is, that's what's also bad about the other direction, is that because the European Union has the backing of the United States, because we have so many assets there, the European Union likes to poke the Russian bear while simultaneously underhandedly taking their oil and giving them billions of dollars. Idiots. So Germany, looking at you, it's one of those things that it's kind of like the little brother who wants to go and piss off the bigger kid, and then he goes and gets his big brother, says, no, you're not gonna fuck with me. And so that's where I have a big issue with the European Union, because yes, the United States pays in 16% of the defense budget to NATO, 16%. And we're not even we're not even anywhere. There's an ocean that divides us from and land that divides us from Russia on either direction. So Russia would have to go through China, or they have to go up and around and down. Like this is just nonsensical. The fact that the European Union, again, they want to talk out both sides of their mouth while doing something different with their hands. And again, I'm not a fan of Vladimir Putin. Like I think what he's done in Ukraine is crap. But at the same time, though, he did draw a line and say, look, we need our sovereignty too. We need to be able to stand alone. And the head of not NATO, was it the head of NATO? Anyway, basically said that, we're not going to promise that that Ukraine's not going to join NATO. There is a president of NATO. And this dude talking out his ass, pissing off Russia. Then Russia's like, okay, we're going to invade Ukraine. Like
he's the former prime minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, who is a cunt.
Well, also think of I was going to say, also think of the fact that Russia and Ukraine might have sat at the table and sort of worked something out. Had Boris Johnson not told Volodymyr Zelensky to continue this, oh yeah, you're going to win, we're going to back you up. How did that work? Boras basically got us into this perpetual war over there when there could have been an opportunity to sort of hash things out in a reasonable way.
There needs to be an off ramp, because quite frankly, the Russian people don't want to continually have their young men, and probably now older men, used as a meat grinder against Ukraine, and vice versa.
Exactly.
But how would we feel if I don't know, somebody in Russia decided to say, like, well, we're going to put a military base in Mexico. The United States is going to go, hold up, wait the fucking second. Like, no, the fuck you're not. That's the same concept as Ukraine.
I mean, let's go back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, Brian. That's the whole reason that kicked off, was that they wanted to store missiles right off our coast.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just like to make the point, right? The reason why the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, was considered a great threat to the United States is that for most of its existence, the USSR wanted to be treated on equal terms with the United States. Historically, whenever a non-American entity wants to be on equal terms with the US's main objective is to annihilate them. Britain never had that mindset as an empire, neither did France. In fact, the only other imperial force historically who had that mindset was Nazi Germany. Literally, the only other empire in modern history that had that mindset was Nazi Germany. If you go further back, you could say Napoleonic France, because Napoleon had a similar concept. Europe is mine, stand in my way, I'll crush you. And it took 7 coalitions and 2 exiles to finally stop him. I am very sympathetic with Napoleon for obvious reasons. But Hugo, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Concerning Ukraine, the whole escalation could have been prevented. Again, of course, it is not a good thing what Russia under Putin did, but if it is said and repeated several times, don't do that, that will have consequences. Don't do that, that will have consequences.
Mhm.
If you provoke and provoke and provoke,
Mhm.
well, something is bound to happen, and it happened.
Mhm.
And alongside that, you have the
Mhm.
globalists with their agenda and
Mhm.
BlackRock with basically already, and that
Mhm.
was like over
Mhm.
2 years ago or so. It doesn't matter how it turns out for Ukraine, they lose either way.
Mhm.
They
That's
they
true.
are, if in theory
Mhm.
Russia would give up, um,
Mhm.
Mm,
as unrealistic that is, but in theory,
Mhm.
mhm.
they are so much in debt. They are basically company property of BlackRock forever.
Yeah.
A hole of debt they couldn't climb out, no matter what happens. Or
Terrifying.
Mhm.
it keeps on and the population gets thinned out more and more.
Mhm.
All the while, the looming threat of an escalation is there. And like I said, I'm firmly believing this is as a threat against the whole of the European population, um, on purpose. So we will send you to the war, and especially within Germany, the Eastern Front is something which was always kept in memory. So there, you go
Oh
there,
yeah.
you won't come back.
Well, we have to
Um,
consider, Hugo, in terms of American presence in Germany. It's almost universally in Western Germany, even to this day, right? East
Yep.
Germany, paradoxically, even to this day, is almost completely devoid of any kind of military presence. And you could say that about the fact that even after, oof, we're getting close to 40 years now since the Iron Curtain fell, you can still see to this day that in terms of standards of living, in terms of even life expectancy, East Germany is lower than Western Germany, which just
yeah,
goes to
well,
show
that's
that
something I could elaborate on quite a bit, of course. But yeah, it's
in.
basically true. Um, on the other hand, since the memory of the Soviet era is still
Mhm.
fresher in their memory, just like with Poland and all the others, those are the people who are pushing back the most against
Mm.
the haha red flags. Well,
It,
and
it's so interesting to me, and the reason why I bring this up as we celebrate the United States is because the United States has a tremendous impact on the European continent, right? The most right-wing Germans are East Germans, but the most left-wing Poles are in what was Prussia, which was the original state of Germany. Basically northern and western Poland, folks, were the core territories of Prussia that got given to Poland by the Soviets in exchange for Western Belarus and Western Ukraine becoming Soviet territory. That's why Poland has borders that it has. So half of Poland's territory isn't technically Polish, which is why the north and the west of the country has German infrastructure, whereas the south and the east of the country is actually full of Poles. So the most left wing Polish people live in what I like to call Prussia, which
well,
is so
the
weird.
history of
So
Europe,
weird.
mainland Europe at
Mm,
least, was always quite busy. So the
yeah,
borders have been pushed around
yes.
for as long as the concept of country borders existed.
I,
And
Hugo,
speaking for
Hugo,
myself, for example, my four grandparents are from four different countries, only one being German. So,
well, then
and I'm not alone with that.
I'm sure you can understand then, Hugo, that to the European mind, the idea of buying and selling territory is a bit odd, to say the least, considering European history.
Yeah, odd
Well,
is a good word for that.
Also, at the same time, too, you have to understand that a lot of people, and this is the most nonsensical part too. It comes from our country when people are like, well, if you go to this European country, they have universal health care, and everybody is well fed, and blah, 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 blah. They also find out they have like a 45% tax rate or something like that.
Yep.
The whole entire United States, you can pick up and lift it and drop it on top of the European continent, and it's about the same size. So the United States, the reason that we have these grand ideas is because the U.S. was ultimately unconquered territory when the British showed up, and yes, colonized everything again because. Quite frankly, people colonize other people. I'm sorry, it's just how it works. It's the way it worked in Africa, where the black people were. It's the way it worked in Eastern Asia, where it doesn't matter. People colonize other people. It's the way it is. The first slaveholders were African tribes who sold them to the white people. They said, "Oh, look, white people, you take these people."
and the Arabs as well. And the Arabs were like, "We're not even gonna." Yeah, the Arabs were like, we're not even going to buy them. We're just going to take them.
Dude, and there's a whole race of Filipino people in the Middle East that are basically of slavery descent. They're little Filipino people. And it's kind of funny too that in Arabic there's no B, so I'm sorry, there is no P, so they're Filipinos. But anyway, I digress. The United States was largely unconquered, so I mean, we expanded and we bought, of course, from Mexico to get, we bought Alaska from Russia to get that. The United States has been used to expanding to make our own country because we didn't have a country. We are one of the youngest countries, if not maybe the youngest country on this planet. So
in terms of world power. From foundation to world power, the United States is by far the youngest country to go from foundation to world power. Look at China. China is a fantastic example. During the latter Middle Ages, early industrial period, the Qing dynasty had the most powerful economy and had the biggest population. The second was the Mughals, the Indian Empire, the empire made of poo. And this was before the Industrial Revolution, so it was raw population numbers and land masses that led to economic growth. But those civilizations can trace their origins 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. They're very, very old cultures. So go ahead, Jose. What were you going to say?
I know we don't usually have breaking news on the show, but as you celebrate American exceptionalism, we might be facing another George Floyd-esque situation as a woman who attempted to basically run over one of the ICE agents while interfering with them doing their business has been shot, and that was in Minnesota. So now Mayor Jacob Frey and Governor Tim Walz, who, by the way, is probably about to be fit for handcuffs, are basically begging leftists in Minnesota to go rioting to get ICE out of their state. And of course, Ilhan Omar, of course, asking for the same thing as documents start showing that they very much may investigate her for the marriage fraud, marrying her own brother. So all these leftists are now using a potential riot as a defense against all their wrongdoing.
It's called domestic terrorism because when you use violence and intimidation to get your political points across, that's the definition of terrorism. The textbook definition.
Hey, one day after J6, which they like to bleed on against Ryan, they love to bleed on about J6, and now they're calling for way worse than it one day later.
Well, it's really weird too that the fact that like all this corruption stuff has come out over the last month and a half, and all of a sudden there's an event that might upheave all of that. And again, at the same time, look, go ahead. You do you. You want to burn your city to the ground again? You're just mostly hurting a largely black population. I
think the last thing the Democrats should be doing at this moment is provoking this administration considering recent events, okay?
Mhm.
The Trump administration has literally proved to the international community that it is willing to cross previously red lines, okay?
Mhm.
And if they can do that abroad, they can certainly do that at home. So think of the red line, and this administration could well cross it. And that crossing could lead to look, they attacked Venezuela. Who knows? Trump may attack Minnesota and put you all in chains. He could Maduro your ass, Tim Walz. He could
Es-
Maduro your ass, Ilhan Omar. And what was that other guy?
Especially,
Jacob
es-
something?
Jacob Frey, that's the
Yeah.
mayor of Minnesota.
Yeah. So if he can if Trump can order Maduro, a foreign leader, to be kidnapped, it stands to reason that he's willing to cross a red line to solve problems in Minnesota by doing the
Mhm.
same thing to Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, and fucking Jacob Frey, who's a Jew. Go ahead, Saint Hugo.
especially picking up the term, and I fully agree with that,
Mhm.
domestic terrorism.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Floyd was before Kirk, who so fittingly said when words end, when people stop talking, violence happens. So, and this is still fresh enough in the memory of even the normies, because, well, that went way beyond our spheres of the internet and so on. Um, yeah, I don't think this has the capacity to become the next George Floyd,
Mhm.
because there will be consequences this time around, and there should
Mhm.
be swift and
Mhm.
fittingly hard.
Exactly.
Well, and
Well,
the
I
thing
think
is too is that incitement of violence is a real thing. It's a real law. It is on the books. I don't think that again. I'm actually going to say this, and maybe you guys might disagree. Picking up a foreign dictator who has basically been a giant thorn in the side of the majority of the world is kind of like a Tuesday for the United States. I don't agree with that being a thing, but it is a thing.
Mhm.
As for Donald Trump, basically doing the same thing to Tim Walz or Ilhan Omar, stuff like that. No, there's going to be. Donald Trump has classically shown his resistance to doing anything that is outside the scope of the Department of Justice. Otherwise, Hillary Clinton would be in jail. And I think that
well,
anybody who is inciting violence needs to be seriously looked at and investigated, because that's the way this works.
well, I will make it clear. I know this isn't the first time the U.S. has kidnapped a foreign dictator. Of course, Manuel Noriega during the invasion of Panama. I think that was in 1989, if I remember correctly. So there is technically a precedent for this situation. But we need to understand that the more a country or a people can get away with crossing those red lines, the more they're going to cross those red lines. And there is a historic precedent for doing this. The most recent examples were those of the Axis powers, right, in the 30s, when Italy invaded Ethiopia. Back then it was called Abyssinia. When Japan, basically, when the League of Nations, the proto UN, condemned Japan for invading China, what did Japan do? Said, go fuck yourself, we're leaving the League of Nations, right? Or when Germany went into Austria, or first the Rhineland, which people agreed with, then Austria, then the Sudetenland, ultimately
And
Czechoslovakia,
talking
right?
about Italy,
Mm-hmm.
since they dipped out of the Second World War by, well, running away soon enough, they continued with their fascist regime right after that. And also, let's say, Spain, which had their own dictator and internal civil war concerning him, and basically had no part in the Second World War because of their internal power struggle, which resulted in a continued fascistic regime until I've forgotten the exact date. I don't know, 1970.
1976.
All right, 1970
And
was not
and
so bad
and it
then.
was a similar And it was a similar time for Portugal, which stayed neutral, pro-British, but ended up staying a dictatorship until the 1970s, as Jose laughs his ass off for some
Yeah,
reason.
all of the X timeline is begging Trump to just go ahead and Maduro Tim Walz. Just do it. But I do think on that note, it's very plausible with Walz, because this is a man who essentially is. I mean, look, we have now found officially that there is election fraud in the United States, in the state of Georgia, where I'm from. We found that there's over, I think, something like close to 300,000 votes in Fulton County that went for Biden that should not have been counted at all due to errors. That was about the margin in which the state was flipped for Joe Biden. And I've said it before, the biggest buried lead of that is the fact that since it's down ballot, that means that the 2 Senate seats that were also poached by the Democrat Party are therefore illegitimate. And that should be the biggest hammer to drive home, is that these 2 senators are still sitting in the Senate right now, Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, and should not be there. But Walz, again, if you look at Minnesota, what we've uncovered, that basically you get to vote for 8 other people in Minnesota. No wonder why the man's in power. It's because of the fact that there's so much ridiculous fraud. It's a shame, and we need to put an end to this immediately in this country. I do think that people have had enough.
I think Trump needs all the popular support he can get right now. So get the popular support, make a spectacle out of it. Maduro, that's literally going to become a term now, folks. You're going to be Maduro, right? Maduro Tim Walz, right? It may be completely fucking illegal, but it would be extremely popular. Think about it. Think about it politically, right? Because the operation against Maduro was highly controversial. But to satisfy the base, the MAGA base, Maduro Tim Walz, Maduro Omar. Trump basically made it clear that all the Somalis are illegals and they should all be deported, including her. Well, you've said the rhetoric. Now Maduro her and send her on a ship back to Mogadishu.
Oh man.
Somalians love the sea. That's why they still have piracy, you see.
The irony of sending her back to Mogadishu, the events of Black Hawk Down, where, well, again, because Somalia at the time of the events of Black Hawk Down hated the guts of the United States. So yeah, she is a refugee who was given given status to become a United States citizen. I'm kind of the opinion that what was granted should be able to be taken away, because she has proven herself not to be anywhere near in the interest of the United States, her position as a congresswoman, or in the interest of the state she represents.
And here's the thing. A lot of people say that, look, I'm all for free speech. Ryan, I'm sure you're all for free speech, but there's free speech and literally inciting sedition. Even today, while these people, the situation is brewing in Minnesota and she's basically now fanning the flames, even that could be considered a form of sedition. All right. They consider J6 sedition for way less than what these people do consistently. So that being said, you're a guest here. You've overstayed your welcome. Get the hell out. Have fun in Somalia. You can take your, we don't even want you to take your money with you, but if you want to go do that and live there like a queen, go ahead and do that. Just get out of our hair.
Live like a queen.
I'm sorry, Maverick. I'm not paying for dual streaming. Okay, I'm poor or Jewish, one of those.
Yeah, it's simple right here. Green cards can be revoked for national security concerns, engaging in activities that threaten national security, such as affiliations with terrorist organizations. She whiz. I wonder what she does all the time when in promoting violence for domestic terrorists or terrorism, as in like now.
When I heard, because I saw it as it was happening, folks, as the news was breaking about the special operation in Venezuela, I thought to myself, there's more of a credible case for America to attack Somalia than Venezuela, because of the mass fraud that the Somalis have been doing, that has been so egregious that they've been earning more a year than the entire GDP of Somalia in 2025, right? That's justification for full-out invasion, occupation, and facilitation of all the Somalis back to where they come from, okay? Because that crosses a red line on so many issues. So I think Trump, if he's going to cross red lines, and he's gotten away with it, right? There's this big backlash, but he's gotten away with it. Cross red lines that would be extremely popular with your supporters, because a lot of your supporters think you're a fucking traitor. I supported MAGA since I was a teenager, right, for 11 years, and even I am having second doubts at supporting you from afar. What do you think those who have stood by you are thinking of? Is this the administration of Ben Shapiro and Lindsey Graham? Seriously? Lindsey Graham jacking off was like, oh, Iran, Cuba, Canada. It's like, is that what we're going to deal with now? Is that the future of MAGA? If that's the future of MAGA, it's going to die.
ET needs to phone home. Get her the hell out of here, all right?
AOC looks more like ET facially.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually true. That is very true. No, I mean, I would agree. I think there's some things that he's doing lately that, quite frankly, I'm not really on board with. The only good news is that Donald Trump, he's very good at reading the waters. If he does something that's stupid, he does a pretty decent job of trying to correct and go the other direction. So I don't think there have been some things lately he's been doing that he's been getting some pushback on, and I think he's going to probably start nudging the other direction, because again, he is a businessman. He does read the room, and I think he will kind of like maybe slow his roll a little bit. So that's what I'm hoping for. That's what he has done politically in the past. He does kind of he does again read the temperature. So let's hope he continues to do that, because no, I don't want a war with Venezuela, which we're not going to have one. That'd be a very short war. Well, I don't want continuing conflict in the Middle East with Israel and all this kind of stuff going back and forth. Hamas is a terrorist group. I agree 100%. They are. They need to go away. But they're probably not, because they're terrorists and they don't give a shit.
And I sign on with what you're saying, Ryan. I agree with you completely on this. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to make the point that all the internationally recognized terrorist organizations no longer exist because they're internationally recognized, where all the major powers on earth work together to wipe it out. ISIS is a textbook example of when I say legitimate terrorist organization, I mean internationally recognized by all the major powers. Look, 10 years ago, when ISIS literally had territory the size of France and the fucking Middle East, they were beating everyone. They were beating every fucking faction on the ground. It took a coalition of America, Russia with Chinese support, working with people on the ground to literally annihilate ISIS. That is an internationally recognized terrorist organization. I know Hamas has done shitty things using children's hospitals as shields and children as human shields. Yet, whether we like to admit it or not, they are not internationally recognized as a terrorist organization.
Nope, they terrorize one region and one region only. And that's true, they do. It's no different than probably what Antifa does around here. Antifa is basically formed to basically bully Americans into doing what they want. So I do agree. It is not internationally recognized like ISIS is or Al Qaeda. Hamas isn't coming to the United States and blowing shit up. They're gonna be like, we did it.
Exactly. It's very similar to that of like Hezbollah in Lebanon, right? We classify them as a terrorist group, despite the fact that they are the major Muslim political party in Lebanon that also happens to have a military division. Go ahead, Jose.
Yeah, I want to make this clear, all right? I know that Trump is not perfect. I criticize when Trump does things I don't like all the time. I don't like Israel. Everybody thinks automatically you wear this, that you're on the side of supporting Israel. I'm one of the most critical people on any of the network shows of Israel, all right? That being said, I don't regret my vote for even one single solitary second, because you know what the alternative was? It was Kamala Harris and the man who is frauding the state of Minnesota right now, Tim Walz, who they knew before they put him in that spot as VP that he was doing what he was doing. Okay, you can't tell me otherwise. They knew full well what he was up to. In fact, I'm pretty sure Democrats across all 50 states were completely complicit in it. That being said, do I want to, in echoing what Ryan said, I don't want to see Trump sort of do more of this. I hate to compare the man to a child, but I'll make this analogy: when a child gets a new toy, they like to test the toy out. Well, you know what? This man and his now Secretary of War. It's no longer Department of Defense. He changed the Department of War for a reason, and that was because of the fact they want to show. By the way, if you fuck with us, we will come get you. If you go on TV like Maduro said 3 months ago, come get me, motherfucker. Yeah, well, guess what? There's consequences for that, and we have the ability to do so. We are not Joe Biden. We are not weak. We are not going to sit there and cry. We are not going to botch withdrawal in Afghanistan, which was under Joe Biden's watch, which unfortunately left several American soldiers dead. That's not what we're about. You mess with us, we have the ability. We have the ability and the means to do something about it.
This is why you don't do two things at once, folks. Why don't you like the shit?
I thought you were Israeli, not Indian. Oh boy!
Oh dear! We haven't done a blooper like that in quite a while.
Do not redeem.
Everybody like the shit.
Yeah.
Down below.
Oh, look! If the shit can get 20 likes, imagine what it could do if it was polished. But I know. I know Legion has to head off soon because he has some things to do. But I will make it very clear before we move into future plans is that assuming the best case scenario for America, I think it could easily become an empire if it wanted to. And when I'm talking about empire, I'm talking about Greenland, I'm talking about Canada, potentially Cuba, carpet bombing Iran into fucking oblivion. If Trump really wanted to go down that alley, then he could. But let's face it, it would ensure a Democrat victory, and the Democrats would just be like, "Here, Canada, have your country back. Here, Denmark, have Greenland back." They would literally do that, and the world would herald them as heroes for doing it.
Look,
here, Cuba, have your freedom back. Become communist again.
Look, if we're gonna be an empire, I just hope we get to wear capes and golden armor. Hail to Caesar's Legion.
Oh God, that reminds me of that.
No, there's no
Fallout. Jesus,
going on here. I'm all about the new California Republic. Get the fuck out of here, man.
No, season 2, Caesar. Macaulay Culkin, Caesar.
No, he's a legate.
Yeah,
he's a legate.
Yeah,
he's a strong arm. He's not. He is not Caesar.
I'm trying to wipe my memory of that episode or the whole season. The Fester never changes.
Always. Truth of Kaiser.
Look, I'm just going to make it clear, folks. America is the enclave. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen,
America is not the enclave. That's the American government.
It is. America is the enclave. You know,
the American people ultimately became the Minutemen and the new California Republic.
I just find it crazy that I love Fallout 3's story, but I don't like playing the game. The fourth topic is future plans. Well, I say fourth topic. Catching up with everyone isn't a fucking topic. But Legion, what are your future plans?
As I'm getting back into doing YouTube, I have no future plans except for to be here tomorrow. I'm not sure what we're talking about, but I'll be again back with this guy. Wrong direction. There you go. That guy. And so yeah, I'll be here. I'm trying to dip my toes back into it because real life has been a swirling vortex. It's still a little crazy, but not as bad as it was. So I appreciate it. I got to go to the VA. I got to go talk to my get my crazy pills and talk to my shrink and shit. Cause all us U.S. veterans are fucked the hell up, but usually because of foreign wars. So I'll see you guys.
Well,
take it easy, Ron.
Well, you have a good night, Legion. I find it incredible, folks, we have 25 likes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is the strangest thing, right? This show has 25 likes. Officially on YouTube, we currently have 32 views,
Mhm.
25 likes, and we've averaged about 8 live viewers throughout today's show, right? We are close to a 1-to-1 ratio of viewers to likes, which is terrifying if that scales up, folks. That's terrifying. So we appreciate everyone for your support throughout today's show. What about you, Hugo? What are your future plans?
Well, for the foreseeable time, mostly offline private matters. Um, but hoping for the best that I can spend more time on my side projects once this first month of 26 is done.
Right. Good. And we appreciate everyone for checking out the replay as well, folks, especially the hit intro. Nice 2-minute intro showing America at its best, carpet bombing little countries to oblivion. Okay, folks? Okay, that will make America great again.
Well, if the country
And
is so small, would it not be more fitting to call it plate bombing instead of a carpet being too big?
oh damn,
That's true.
oh damn! All the while, Lindsey Graham is jacking off in the corner.
Oh my
Because you know
god.
he does that. You know he
It's a
does
horrible
that.
mental picture.
He does that every time someone whispers in his ear, "We're gonna invade Cuba." He's like, "Oh."
Well, that just reminds me of the meme. I don't know if you ever heard of Holden Blood Feast?
No, I haven't, and that sounds
Yeah.
very disturbing.
Yes, it is. It is disturbing. Here, I'll share it with you. Here's our boy Holden Blood Feast. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. I think it's zoomed in.
There he is,
Holden
John
Blood Feast.
McCain.
118 years old. Please, God, let us nuke Iran. Nothing else matters. I'll do anything. Please. I just want to see burning flesh one last time before I die. Respectable,
Charming.
bipartisan.
Oh, good God, man!
That's Lindsey
These
Graham.
kinds. Yeah, these kinds of senators are detestable. I celebrated to no end when John McCain died. I literally, and I live in Israel, okay, folks? Right? I thought we were turning a corner when Dick Cheney hit the bucket. But it seems the spirits of these people are inhabiting Donald Trump and moving him like a puppet. And we're now only four likes away from 30, folks, and we're only 1 like
They're
away
inside Dan
from.
Crenshaw's eye patch. That's what's underneath. That's
Oh
where they
my
make their
goodness.
home.
That's another fucker I don't like, Eye Patch McCain. And we're only 1 like away from hitting our like record for the Wednesday show, which more than justifies us renewing the Wednesday show. The
Mhm.
problem is trying to get everyone together for Wednesday because it is a very packed. It is a very packed day. But thank you for your future plans, Jose. It was a pleasure having you on. In regards to my future plans, ladies and gentlemen, make more videos, make more shows, make more videos from said shows. We were doing 4 videos a day, but we're going to scale it down to 3 videos a day because the algorithm is punishing me for making more videos. I'm getting less views for making more videos, and I've lost 2 subs as a result of increasing production.
Well, I mean, hey, tomorrow's Cancel's podcast. You'll be there.
Yep.
I don't know if the city of Minneapolis will still be there tomorrow. That's the question. So I'm sure we'll be covering that tomorrow night.
It's going to be insane, ladies and gentlemen. But do you know what isn't insane? What isn't insane is the fact that Jose is going to be doing a game stream later today. So you guys go and check that out and support Cancel This Podcast, which is the network's main hub on Rumble. So there you go. So on that
What are you playing?
Yeah. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, the demo just dropped from Square Enix. I'm actually surprised that they decided to be ballsy enough to drop a demo. So I figured, well, let me check it out. Let's see what's going on with Dragon Quest VII. Hopefully it turns out to be a good game because it's Dragon Quest 40th anniversary. And I think Square has a lot riding on turning the corner and getting away from all of the woke ideology that's infested them for the past 3 or 4 years.
Excellent. And I appreciate everyone
good.
checking out today's show, folks. Without you, fine folks and fellow creators, the network would not be where it is today. We've got 9 people watching live. If you haven't already, like the stream, share the stream. We're not monetized, so no donations. We aim to be monetized by the 21st of May of this year, but we can't really do that if we're bleeding out subs. Okay? Okay, folks? So tell your friends to subscribe to Digni, okay? They don't even have to watch, okay? My mentor had 3,000 subs, and he was lucky to get 300 views a fucking day, okay? You don't have to be an active viewer to be a subscriber. Please, I need the support. Like the shit. Like, literally. We should make that a thing. It's like
Oh my
the
God.
shit. We could probably get to
That would
500
soon
subs.
turn into lick this shit.
Remember, if you do an AI video of like some monkey fighting the Hulk, all of India will follow you.
Well, that's a good idea then. That's a good idea. Like the shit, my fellow Indians. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for watching the 5th episode of Digni System Crash, the American Empire Special. Long live Pax Americana. Here's to 250 more years where America ends up staying on top forever and doesn't end up as the next Japan.
USA, 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 USA. Okay, there we go.
All right then, folks. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye. Wakanda forever.